Lots of chances. I'm Melissa Denton, and I am running for Thurston County Commissioner, District 3, and I have my honorable Democratic opponent here, and we have decided already that we need the top 2 candidates to be the top 2 Democrats, and so we would appreciate your help with that, please. I am very honored to have my colleague also running, and we have a lot in common, but we do have some differences. And I'm happy to talk about that, but I'm also very happy to talk about the things we have in common. Our county would be a lot better off with either one of us in office rather than the current configuration. As you know, we've all got a lot of motivation to be here. We have Washington, D.C. in a horrible, horrible mess, and it's a disgrace every single day. But it's getting a lot of us motivated to do things, and we might as well make good things out of bad things. And that's what I propose that we are doing by being here. And thank you very much for being here, for becoming active, for caring about our community, and for following through on that, using your evening to be here. I also think we have a bad mess here in Thurston County, frankly. Our County Commissioners Board is about as representative as White House interns right now, maybe worse. In fact, it is worse. We have 3 people who are remarkably similar, and they have characteristics that are not compatible with what Democrats believe and what progressives believe should be in place in our county government. Our county has suffered and is suffering from that. One of those candidates, one of those people is up for election right now, along with Tye and me, and I am hoping that you will help make that a changed situation. I know that he's an incumbent, he's worked hard to be popular, and we have a really serious job. We cannot take it for granted. I am very qualified to take control of that particular position, and I want to tell you just a little bit about my background. I am a mom of an 18-year-old. I am a wife. I have a lot of diversity in my family. My husband is from Malaysia. He came here as a visiting student, and we met in Oklahoma, where I grew up. And then we moved here right when we got married in 1987 and have lived here ever since. I've been practicing family law here as an attorney for many years, since 1990. I always just say the year it started because that's easier than computing the years. And I've also been owning a business for about 20 or so of those years, or 25 of those years. And I have been running my business. I've been employing people. I have a good background in how to do that. My husband is from Malaysia. My son was born in Malaysia, and he was adopted by my family at birth, and we have him with us since he was about 8 months old. So we have a lot of diversity right built in because I've got Chinese family members, and I feel like I'm part Chinese myself now. I don't exactly look like it, but I have a lot of diversity in my life, and I think that diversity is something we really treasure here in Thurston County. It brings strength. It is so important to have different perspectives on things. One of the different perspectives I bring to being a county commissioner is, of course, that I am a lawyer. I'm a very highly qualified lawyer. I've been doing it very successfully for many years, and I think that that is going to be very helpful to our county commission, to have a trained lawyer who is able to understand the intricacies of law, able to understand what's important and what's not. I've also been a leader in my church at the Unitarian Universalist congregation, and part of the reason that I have this name tag is because it's my church name tag, because my printing order isn't in yet, so I'm very limited in my printing. So I do have some yellow things over there inviting you to my campaign kickoff, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. In other words, 13 days from today. It's on a Monday evening, April 30th, at River's Edge. And I would love for you all to come, please, and enjoy that party with me. It's going to be fantastic. So,
20 seconds.
Okay, thank you. And so I want you to know that I am here to answer questions. I love talking with people. I love talking, but even more than that, I love listening. I've learned a huge amount about our county, and I look forward to learning more. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. My name is Tye Menser, running for Board of County Commissioners, District 3.
I'm running as a Democrat. I'm running to bring balance and critical thinking back to our county commission. I believe Thurston County is a special place built on its diversity. Diversity of its landscapes, diversity of its people. Yet we have 3 county commissioners from the same background who bring the same perspective to tough problems. As a result, the board loses critical thinking and we don't get the creative solutions that our county needs. I'm running to change that. If elected, I would bring a wealth of educational, personal, and professional experience to this job. I have an undergraduate degree in government from Harvard. I have a law degree from the University of California, Berkeley. I've had a 20-year legal career with a focus on criminal defense. Important in that 3/4 of our county's general fund budget relates to law and justice. I've spent the biggest part of my legal career in public service as a public defender. I spent 7 years in northern Alaska, representing the interests of indigenous peoples living above the Arctic Circle and throughout interior Alaska, and developing a deep and abiding respect for wilderness and open spaces. I learned Spanish and studied abroad in Mexico, Chile, and Argentina. And as a law student, I was involved with Salvadoran refugees, helping them with political asylum applications. I spent 3.5 years on the county's Water Conservancy Board, involving extensive training in Washington's complex water law. And finally, I was raised with working class values by 4 public school teachers. That's right, 4. My parents were teachers and they divorced when I was 2, and they pretty instantly remarried other public school teachers. My wife is a public school teacher. My mother-in-law is a public school teacher. My dad was a teachers union president in the 1980s. I mention this because it's reflective of the values that I would bring to my work as a county commissioner. If elected, I want to get our county's finances back on track. We've spent through our rainy day fund. County government is squeezed, but whereas previous commissioners built up our funding reserves, the current board has simply spent through them. We need long-term financial planning. We can also address our budget issues by looking at our biggest budget area, law and justice. Our current commissioners want to expand the jail and fired our county's most passionate advocate for restorative justice, the head of the Public Defender Agency. That is the wrong approach. I will work with courts, prosecutors, public defense, corrections, and law enforcement to implement restorative justice approaches, find efficiencies and cost savings, reduce recidivism, and make our communities healthier and safer for less money. Second, I want to build partnerships with our cities to address a range of key regional issues, such as affordable housing, mental health services, substance abuse treatment, and rising poverty. We know that poverty among households in our county, in households with children, has spiked over the last 2 years. This is unacceptable. When the federal government is moving us backwards on every single issue that we care about, it is imperative that our local governments work together and build relationships to move aggressively forward to solve problems. Solutions have to start here in Thurston County. Finally, we want to protect our open spaces, our water, and our agricultural land, so we have to make smarter land use decisions. I want to put a focus in this campaign on clean water. Bud Blake's record on clean water is abysmal, and I don't have time to lay out all the reasons, but hopefully we'll get to that in this forum. But we need to strike the right balance between property rights and conservation to retain the distinctive character of our county as we continue to grow. With your help, I will address these issues head on and help prepare Thurston County for a healthy, predictable future. You will have a progressive voice back on your county commission and a passionate advocate for sound financial management, collaborative problem solving, and careful stewardship of our natural resources. Again, my name is Tye Menser. I'm asking for your vote. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. My name is Mary Hall, I'm County Auditor, and I was elected in 2013, so I want to say thank you for that. It's a job that I have really, really enjoyed these last 4.5 years. You know, most people don't really understand what the Auditor's Office does. They think of elections, of course, but I call it the junk department of county government, because when the legislature didn't know what to do with a function, they just kind of threw it under the auditor's office. So to give you a broad overview, the auditor's office is in charge of county finances, not budget, but county finances, paying the bills, making sure we have strong internal controls. I also oversee the recording department, the licensing department, and all of the sub-agents that you see throughout the county. But what most people think about, and what my passion is elections. I've got 22 years as an elections administrator, and that's really where my passion is. However, my education is in accounting, so I really enjoy that as well. And I've really fulfilled what I promised 4 years ago, and I think you can group my accomplishments into three things. One is county finances and making sure we have strong internal controls and saving money. Developing partnerships, not only across the county, but also in the community, and also working on voter access legislation. And this year was a landmark year for that I'm very proud of, and I'll go into a little more detail in a moment. But when I walked into my job, my budget was cut by 10%. And the county has never been, because of initiatives that happened 20 years ago, has been in good financial shape. So, the first thing I did was looked around and said, where can we save money and where can we increase revenue? So the first thing I did was looked at, are we incurring late fees? And are we taking advantage of vendor discounts? I come from the private sector. So the answer was yes and no. We were incurring late fees. We weren't taking advantage of vendor discounts. And to give you an idea of what a vendor discount can amount to, for one printing invoice for elections, it was a $1,000 discount. So in the last year, avoiding late fees and taking advantage of vendor discounts netted us $60,000 in the county. The other thing I looked at is our voters pamphlet. We were printing two. We printed one, the state printed one. So by partnering with the state in 2014, we saved $25,000 on that voters pamphlet, plus a lot of paper. And in 2016, I believe it was $16,000. So I'm continually looking for ways that we can save money and also improve our financial controls. We were getting a lot of audit findings before I took office, and I'm proud to say that I've brought us from a high-risk to a low-risk audit category, which just this year is going to save us $13,000 in audit costs. But what I'm most proud of is the legislation that passed this year. When I ran, there wasn't a single county auditor that supported same-day voter registration. And I'm pleased to say I was able to bring about 8 of those with me in supporting the legislation. The association testified in support of it in front of the legislature, and it passed this year. So this year we got same-day voter registration, automatic voter registration, pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds, and the Voting Rights Act passed. And I'm very, very proud of the work I did on those. And I'm also very proud to have been recognized by the governor. I was the only elected official invited to speak at that bill signing ceremony, so that was quite a compliment. So I would love to have 4 more years. This is a job that I'm passionate about. Now we get to implement all of this legislation. And as Tye mentioned, we do have some financial issues in this county, so I need to continue to make sure that we're spending our money wisely, that various departments are managing their money wisely and have strong financial controls. So I really ask for your support. I do have an opponent. He's running as an independent, which is a little intimidating because we know that independents do get elected in Thurston County. We have 3 independent commissioners. We have an independent sheriff. So any help you can give me in these efforts, I'd greatly appreciate that, whether it be doorbelling, making phone calls, talking to your neighbors. I have envelopes. Of course, it costs money to run a campaign, so financial contributions are always welcome. But I hope that you'll return me to office. And the other thing you can do to get the word out about my campaign is take out your phone right now, take some pictures, and post them on Facebook. All right. So thank you very much. My name's Mary Hall. I'd appreciate your vote this November.
Thank you, Mary. And we have Victor Minjares. running for county prosecutor. Did I say that all right? You did. Oh, hey.
My name is Victor Minjares. I'm an attorney. I've almost been an attorney for 3 decades now. Most of you know me as a civil attorney with a small law practice on the west side. Others may remember me from from the Attorney General's office. But for 15 years, I was a prosecutor down in Los Angeles County doing murders, dual jury trials, robberies, home invasion, all kinds of serious felonies. In addition, I was in the major fraud division where I prosecuted complex crimes involving thefts of over $1 million. The reason I'm here tonight is I'm worried about Thurston County. I do not practice criminal defense law, but I have colleagues and have heard stories and have heard from witnesses and many other people in the community about the way justice is practiced here in Thurston County, and I'm very concerned. I looked for a candidate to support who would be running this year and could find none. I talked to all the defense counsel I could, and I decided if no one else was going to run, then I was going to do it. The reason is this. We have a prosecutor's office that is run no differently than one in the 1930s or 40s. There are no policies. If someone wants to, if a police officer wants to come in and file a case, there's no filing team. There are no filing policies on what they should consider, a prosecutor should consider. There are no restrictions on who can look at it. So a prosecutor who was sworn in the month before, who's never tried a case or maybe just tried a DUI or an assault, can file a murder case here in Thurston County with very little experience. There's no review of that. There's really no policies on what happens after that. When I was a prosecutor, if we had what's called exculpatory evidence, something that showed that somebody tended to be innocent, for example, if a witness went back on their statement, or if it turned out that somebody had lied and we had proof of that, we turned that over immediately. There was no argument, there was no debate. We simply let the defense know, hey, I just talked to this witness. The witness said something very different than what they said in the police report. You may want to interview this witness. There was no question about it. Here in Thurston County, defense counsel are forced to fight for every bit of evidence they get. Tapes are withheld that are clearly relevant to the case and what its value is as far as whether it deserves a guilty plea, a trial, or to be dismissed. It's shocking to me, some of the stories I've heard. And as word is leaked out that I'm running, I've only officially announced last night, but you know how people talk. I've been hearing more and more stories that are really terrifying to me as a former prosecutor. A prosecutor should be about justice. It should be about, are you doing the right thing for the community, for the victim, for the society as a whole? Because putting someone away who is innocent is the worst crime a prosecutor can commit. And everything we do should be to work against that. I don't see that here in Thurston County. And you are going to hear throughout this campaign many stories regarding that. I only have a minute left, so I want to touch on something that I heard a couple of the candidates reference tonight, and that's the lack of money available to the county. 75% of the county's budget is law, courts, and justice. Who has the power to tank any reform that we want to implement to try to save money in the courts and criminal justice system? The prosecutor's office. The prosecutor can tank any reform, either through indifference or through undermining it. And we're seeing that here. We have some diversion programs that look great on paper, but in fact are not being used. The LEAD program is one. Law enforcement assisted diversion. Try to keep people out of the court system. So because courts are expensive. It costs like $9,000 a day to run a courtroom with all the personnel in it. So we want to try and keep people who are suitable out of the system before that. In the 6 to 8 months that the LEAD program has been in operation here in Thurston County, there have been exactly one person who's been through the program. One person. And I've seen sheets and sheets of names of people who could have qualified for that. Help me change Thurston County. I can't do it alone. I need the help of you and other people. Please support me. Thanks.
What do you believe are the three most important issues that you would like to address, and how?
The three most important issues for a county commissioner are, first, our budget. We have a huge budget. We have over $320-some million that we are spending. Now, the county commissioners only have discretion over a certain portion of it, but the discretion has not been exercised wisely, and we really, really need to make good decisions about our budget, because that is where the rubber meets the road. That's where county commissioners can make a difference. Another difference that we need to have is that we need to make sure we don't have mere politics choosing the people who work for us. I'm trying to be delicate in how I phrase it, but we've had some very unfortunate decisions made in terms of getting rid of some institutional wisdom and knowledge and great people merely for petty politics. And I'm really dismayed by that, and I think that needs to change. The third thing that needs to change in our county is that we need people who actually say what they're going to do, that do it, and that treat other people with respect. And I believe that my skills as a family law attorney, working with all these people who divorce, who are terrified, interacting with the government, who are at a very stressful time in their lives, like the people who interact with our county government often, they need somebody with the kind of skills that I have to work with people who are distressed, to work with the other side, which is what I'll be doing for 2 years when you help me get elected to be on the county commission. I'll be working with two people who are not very cooperative, but I've been there before. I've been doing it for a very long time, and I know very well how to work with people. So we need for folks to be treated with respect. We need to have understanding and compassion. We need to have a lot of attention to details, and I'm out of time.
Okay, yes, I want to look at the county budget, and I kind of outlined that in my opening remarks. I want to do that with some long-term financial planning, and I want to look at the law and justice budget and implement reforms that are going to save us money. Investments now, save money later. That's a fundamental principle of my thinking. A second issue is building partnerships with cities on these key issues. A lot of them are social issues. Let's just take housing, for example. We all know how important housing is. We all know how much it's been debated across our county. It connects so closely to crime. It connects so closely to mental health. It connects so, at a recent mental health forum, for example, I learned that mental health treatment can't really even get started if someone doesn't have a stable place to sleep, because that's the fundamental beginning of mental health treatment, is getting on a stable sleep routine. So housing connects to so many of these issues that I want to make a commitment to that issue, county-wide, working with our cities, which is not happening, and really hitting that head on. Finally, land use planning, and there's a bunch of aspects to this. Clean water is really important to me. Getting the habitat conservation plan done after all of these years and all of this money that we've been given, and we still haven't drafted the plan. We have to get on top of this issue. Those are the three that I would identify.
All right, well, as county auditor, I don't really have much say over the budget, but the one thing that I really think needs to happen in the county, which does happen at the commissioner level because they're kind of executive and legislative branch because of the way Thurston County is structured, is we really need to look at the departments we don't have in this county. Like, one of the things we don't have is centralized procurement. So picture, if you negotiate buying power, quantity discounts, you're going to save a lot of money. But currently what people do is they take a credit card, they go down to Office Depot or wherever, and they buy all their office supplies. So we could really save a lot of money just by doing simple things like centralizing our purchasing and also centralizing our contracts. I think we're at risk because we also don't have a centralized contract office in this state. Okay.
1 minute.
I also think we need to continue strengthening our internal controls. And one of the things that my financial services folks are getting very good at is triaging various departments when we have turnover and issues that come up where they lose key staff, for example, and they go in and make sure we don't fall behind and that we've got strong financial controls in place. You know, we had some departments that had really bad habits that just kind of got passed down through staff, and we're working really hard to fine-tune our processes, make sure that we have really strong financial controls, and that we can not get the audit findings that we've had in the past. So strong financial management and watching where we spend money and saving where we can.
Three things. Top three things. First of all, we're going to try and mitigate the harm that has been done in the past. We're going to set up a conviction integrity unit with outside advisors and former counsel and former prosecutors to review convictions that have occurred in Thurston County to mitigate or cure any injustice we can find. Number two, we're going to solve the problems of the present best we can. The courts are plagued by continuances. Over 60% of the people in jail right now, in our overcrowded jail, are there awaiting trial. If you read the report that was done on the courts, it was issued last summer, it's available on the Superior Court website, you'll find that that was the biggest problem that they found within the court, the culture of continuing cases over and over again. Now it costs about $117 a day to keep someone in custody. I want to take a look also at whether or not we could utilize ERM, electronic monitoring, for a lot of those people and keep them out of the jail and still working but awaiting trial. I want people who spend time in jail or go to prison to actually be convicted of a crime and not awaiting trial whenever possible. Now, last, I want to reinstate a culture of respect in the court here. There's a lot of disrespect shown to defense counsel. There's disrespect shown to the public who comes in to view a trial. And there's disrespect to the rights of defendants. And I think we need to reboot the culture of the Thurston County courts here and do it right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor.
Yeah.
What was the question?
The question was about how you can utilize your office to best mitigate the effects of poverty. Is that
Income inequality.
income in? Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about the bail system. The reason there's about 60% of the people in the jail are there is simply because they're poor. They can't afford $10,000 bail. Now, you or I, if we got arrested tonight for something, we could post bail. It wouldn't be an issue. It might be a little stretch. We might be a little bit worried about the rent the next month, but it's a problem for a lot of people. Why should those people go to jail, lose their jobs, put their families at risk of becoming homeless, just because they're not wealthy? They don't have that extra credit line. They're stretched too thin. They should be on electronic monitoring if they otherwise qualify. First offenders should not be in the county jail for non-serious felonies. And don't get me wrong, I was a hardcore prosecutor in my day, and I've sent many people away for long sentences, but those are for serious crimes. We're talking about how people who are basically innocent before proven guilty are serving their entire sentences before even having a trial, and that's wrong.
Okay, go ahead. Same question, Mary. How will you address income inequality in office?
I'm going to speak more to the equity. We've had recent law changes, particularly around whether felons can vote or not. That law was changed in 2009, but I think it's one of the most misunderstood law changes we've seen, because I still hear all the time that I can't vote because I've had a felony conviction, and that's not true anymore. One of the things that I did was partnered with the Public Defender's Office when Darryl Rodriguez was a public defender, and we created a literature piece that talked about what rights they had. Because basically, if somebody is not incarcerated or on parole, if they're not in jail, their right to vote is automatically restored. So one of the things that I will continue to do is work with our prosecutor, our public defender, and any organization. If you'd like any of this literature, if you have groups that need this, I would be happy to provide it. Because what happens is, I was even doorbelling and people would say, no, I can't vote, I'm a felony. And I would say, yes, you can. Oh, no, I can't. No, I can't. I'm like, yes, you can. I'm the county auditor. You can. I was in Shelton for another campaign. So people are really afraid. They're fearful that they can actually vote, but they can. So I'm going to continue doing things like that. I'm also going to continue my projects of working out to the homeless shelters. They can vote without a traditional address, and that's another very misunderstood fact. They can use a shelter, they can use a street corner, and we will register them. So I'm going to continue those efforts, and also making sure that everybody exercises their right to vote, especially our youth.
Thank you. When it comes to rising income inequality, we know that one of the strongest defenses we have is the strength of our labor unions. And so there have been regional efforts to weaken that strength, and that is something that I would oppose, because we know that that is a recourse we have against the rising income inequality of the last 30 years. And again, I want to come back to housing, because this is something that I believe the county needs to take leadership on in working on, and understanding that it's a problem not just for those that are unsheltered, but 36% of our county are rent burdened. So more than a third of the people in our county are at risk for losing their housing. And this is critical that we focus not just on folks that don't have a roof over their head, although that's obviously a super important problem, but we look at the whole scope of the problem. Something that I learned doorbelling last week when I talked to a citizen was that the children in the school districts that are homeless, and this was told to me that it's especially bad problem in North Thurston School District. They said there was 600 and some children. I thought that can't be right. Before I could even check the statistics, it's in the newspaper yesterday that it's actually, not only is that right, but those are old numbers, and it's gotten worse. 29% increase in unsheltered children in this state. The numbers aren't any different for this county. They went through each school district. It's appalling. And this is not an issue, it's not a problem, it's a crisis, folks. And this is the best way I think the county can get on board with trying to address income issues and inequality issues.
I have to agree with my colleagues that not having a place to live is a really, really harsh thing to happen. And having the services available from the county and being treated with respect and equally by people who work for the county, which are people who work at the county. Most of them are very, very good quality people, but they're not getting the support that they need from the county commissioner level at this time. So I expect and intend to have good employment practices and good training practices so that we can have everyone being treated equally by our county government. I think that is not happening now, and I think it needs to improve over time, and certainly improve quickly now. I think that our land use decisions also impact the inequality. People who don't have enough money to have the profit that they would get from developing land, or the people who have, for instance, rural land where they have onerous, what they perceive as onerous obligations on their land, and therefore they can't use it, can't sell it, it becomes either worthless or worth a lot less. That's very hard on those folks. And I'm we're running in District 3, which includes a lot of folks who live in rural areas, and I think we need to pay attention to rural problems. I think the opioid crisis is a lot related to the stresses and the difficulty of people not having equality, not having hope, not having the government doing the things that it should do. I intend, as a county commissioner, to work carefully, wisely, and as best I can with the current configuration. I intend to improve these things and certainly focus on equality for everyone, and hopefully helping the folks who have income inequality with whatever governmental resources we have in the county. There's a lot of them. Thank you.
This is for Victor. What specifically would you do to divert people with drug addiction and mental health issues from the jail?
The question is divert from the jail, but I would argue that the best bang from the buck would be to divert people before they're in the jail. And that's the problem here in Thurston County. There is a program called LEAD, which I mentioned earlier, Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, which has been certified and used nationwide in various jurisdictions. I believe it started in Seattle. Now, what happened here in Thurston County is we don't have a real LEAD program. They changed the criteria so that it's not even certified as LEAD, although they're using the name. And what it's intended to do is to take people out of the system in the beginning when they encounter the police, once they realize that the person would otherwise qualify for that. Here in Thurston County, all of the power is in the hands of the prosecutor's office. So the defense attorney, the probation officer, the police, all the social services could agree that someone qualifies for LEAD and should go into LEAD, and the prosecutor can say no. And our prosecutor here in Thurston County is okay with that. One person has completed the LEAD program in the time it's been here, and it's designed to fail. It's going to fail if we don't change things quickly. So I say keep them out of jail before they actually get booked and into jail when that's appropriate. We're not doing that now. We have these programs in name only. They're good for photographs, they're good for headlines, and then they're ignored. And we just can't do that anymore. It's unjust to these people, but also it doesn't make financial sense. We're paying other jails to house our people. Our jail is so full. That is ridiculous. There is no way a county of this size should have to do that. We need to change things.
Thank you, Victor. This question is for Tye and Melissa. Do you consider yourself a progressive Democrat? Please explain.
Yes. I don't need 2 minutes, but back when I was a kid, we were called liberals. I guess now I've always been, ever since I was a 8th grade captain of the Walter Mondale debate team in my middle school. I couldn't find anyone else to do it. He was too liberal for my town. But I feel that I'm a progressive because one thing I felt Bernie Sanders' campaign did for us, and maybe it was in the wake of Trump, if there's any silver lining, but I feel he blazed a path for some bold policy changes. He made territory safe to say things that I never thought I could hear a politician say in my lifetime, and still win states at the national level. So I'm empowered to think bold and to think clearly and to think systemically about how we can really reorient some of our policies. Some of the things Victor said I'm in favor of because I believe in justice reform. I believe we can do better with our county dollars and how we handle folks. 45% of the people in your jail are diagnosed with mental health issues. So if you believe that's the best use of your county dollars, you and I disagree. And so, it's a time to be bold. And I feel that the progressive movement in this country is doing that, and I want to be part of it, and I do consider myself a progressive Democrat.
Yes, I am a progressive Democrat. I have been all of my life. Although, as I mentioned, it used to be called liberal. I also have sometimes thought that the word moderate applied, but I guess I got too old too fast because that apparently is not an okay word anymore. The word I mean by moderate is that I am willing to listen. I'm willing to understand. I'm willing to treat everyone with respect and take good ideas from wherever they come. And I'm also willing to negotiate and find the places where there can be win-win, listen to different stakeholders, and work together to find common ground, because that is what is essential for getting things actually done. And I think it's a great responsibility to do that. I mentioned that land use issues are really a big deal for me. I was on the planning commission in Tumwater for several years and really became aware of how much this impacts day-to-day life of everybody in the county. And that is one of the areas where the county commissioners have a lot of influence and a lot of impact. And I think that we need to have progressive Democrats definitely in our government. And we need to have progressive Democrats who can work with other people, who don't bar all the other doors and say, my way or the highway. We need to work with people so that we can get things actually accomplished and not just sit in the corner and fold our little arms and act with abandon about the real interests of the people. We have to have somebody who cares about our people of Thurston County and finds win-win solutions anytime it's possible. And when it's not, let's go look for the back door. And when that doesn't work, let's go look for the window. I want to find real solutions that will work. But I am a progressive Democrat. I always have been, always will be. I absolutely believe in the fundamental values of our Democratic Party, and I hope you vote for me.
This is for you, Mary. Can those waiting in jail for trial vote? And are there any efforts to encourage this? You might also.
If a person isn't currently in jail for a felony conviction, yes, they can vote. In fact, we delivered ballots to the jail in the 2016 general election, and we also put a ballot box in the jail in the 2016 election. So, I think it's crazy that we take away people's rights because they made a mistake. So I'm going to make sure that people understand what their rights are. What was the other question?
And are there efforts to encourage that and get that word out to people that are already incarcerated?
Yes and yes. And, we did that in 2016. We're going to do it in 2018. We'll do it in 2020. We even did a voter registration drive. So, I'm excited that the laws were changed in 2009, but what has to happen is it's got to happen across the country. And, we've got to work with our senators, our congressmen, and we've got to get more sweeping change on the national level. We're doing a great job in Washington State, but we don't hear about it because of the way laws are on the national level. So I think we're a great model for the rest of the country, and I'm very proud to have worked on many of these changes and the legislation that we've been able to get passed.
All right, thank you very much. So we're almost out of time for this first panel. We only got a couple minutes left. So this last question is going to be asked of all of the panelists here, but we're only going to ask for just a one-sentence answer. Maybe you can get away with two if you push it, okay? So in a sentence, this is from the audience, by the way, that wasn't my idea. What is the most powerful tool at your disposal if elected?
The desire of the community to do justice.
New accessible voting laws and pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds.
Collaboration and critical thinking.
I am going to thoroughly know each and everything there is that I need to know to make wise decisions and work carefully with all sides.
you know, Florence has reminded us that we have this